Okay, good morning, everyone in the 5 continents. Today is the 24th of April, and here in Peru is 9:32 a.m. And in Africa, in South Africa, my dear Takalani, what time is it?
It is 4:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, so today we have our guest speaker from South Africa, Mr. Takalani Masho. Thank you so much, dear Takalani, for giving us part of your time on a Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon.
Thank you very much, Jaime.
No, thank you. Okay, as usual, let me present what's going on or what is going to happen in the following weeks. Just a minute, please. Okay. Give me a few seconds, please. It always takes time. I don't know why. Okay. So welcome everyone to our international English online meetings, which were born as a baby in March 2020 because of the pandemic. Somebody who wants to read this quote and give me your impression, your opinion, please. Anyone?
Culture is the widening of the mind and of the spirit, Jawaharlal Nehru. Actually, I been reminded as a child, I met Nehru when my dad was in the army. And
really?
So, yes, we were little kids, very little kids. And he was
my goodness, just a few years ago, my dear Ralph.
Of course, widening of the culture is that whole global education thing and widening the mind and the spirit.
Just like the exclusive and selected group of professors we have here this morning.
Absolutely.
Next one. Anybody else, please?
We may have different religions, different languages, different color scale, but we all belong to one human race. Kofi Annan. Yes, there is nothing to discuss from this quote because it's true. We're humans.
Yes, and that's important. Very good. And the last one, if there is a man, a guy who wants to read, please.
Diversity is not about how we differ. Diversity is about embracing one another's uniqueness.
What do you think, my dear Marco?
Well, that's something everybody should reflect about, because people look at other people as different just because of their color of skin, their ideas, their culture, but in the
age.
But in the end, diversity is something which we have to understand to because that is probably what complements the human race,
of course,
the human species.
Of course,
right?
Marco.
Because of the different ideas that complement each other.
Yes, thank you so much, dear Marco. So if you want to watch the other 70 international meetings, you can watch them in our YouTube channel. And who is presenting soon? Well, in 2 Sundays after Mother's Day, we will have this roundtable about teaching English and the many problems that little children are facing these days and in this new generation after the pandemic. These are the 4 professors who will be talking about teaching English in kindergarten, problems of teaching and learning. Then we will have Jose Ricardo from Colombia, then Enrique Liñán from Peru, after him, Claudia Vanini from Peru, Ivan Suazo from Costa Rica, our good friend from Costa Rica, Ivan Suazo, and today we have my good friend Takalani Masho. Let me say a few words about him. Takalani Masho is an associate professor at the University of Venda in South Africa. He has been a lecturer, senior lecturer, and associate professor since 2010 to date. Professor Takalani Masho has been HOD of the Department of Educational Management He's currently serving as an acting deputy dean, research and postgraduate studies in the Faculty of Humanities, Social Sciences, and Education for the past 2 years. He has published papers in a peer-reviewed journal, and he's serving as co-editor of the Journal of Educational Studies. He published several papers on multicultural education, which is an area he has a passion for. Professor Machaut has supervised master's and doctoral students to completion. He has the following attributions: critical thinker, exceptional self-discipline combined with outstanding abilities in planning, main professional interests, knowledge production, understanding of higher education landscape, developing academic programs to accreditation, developing and reviewing policies. But the most important, the most important quality of my good friend Takalani is he's a wonderful human being, and you will learn that from him today. So Takalani, it's time for you. You can share your screen. It's all yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Jaime. Let me share the screen.
Of course.
Oh.
Okay, we can see your
Okay.
screen.
Yes. The topic for today is recognition of diversity and culture in South African education. South Africa has diverse cultures. These cultures are composed of different races and ethnic groups. There are 4 predominant and recognized races in South Africa, which are white, black, Indian, and coloreds. Amongst all races, the Indian race is sometimes referred as Asian, where all people from Asian origins, such as Chinese, are included. White in South Africa has got 2 recognized ethnic groups, which are Afrikaner and English. There are also other groups from Europe. Blacks have 9 ethnic groups, which are Venda, Tsonga, Northern Sotho, Southern Sotho, Tswana, Zulu, Ndebele, Swati, and Xhosa. These ethnic groups are still predominantly situated in former homelands, which were created and promoted through promotion of Bantu Self-Government Act of 1959 and later representation between the Republic of South Africa and Self-Governing Territories Act of 1959. Here's a map of South Africa before 1994. So you find that all these ethnic groups were situated like here, which is Venda. This is where we are in the northern part of South Africa. And adjacent to Venda is Libua. So all the ethnic groups were situated in different areas and spread across the Republic of South Africa then. So they have their own cultures, they have their own languages, they have their own everything which differ from each other. The purpose of this presentation is to conscientize students and lecturers about the importance of recognizing the individual diverse backgrounds in institutions of learning. Diversity is a Latin term, diverse, diverses. Oh, let me check here again, because the screen is not visible.
Not visible for you?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But
Take your time. Take your time, Takalani.
All right, all right.
It always happens to the best guest speakers in the world. Because we can see it perfectly.
Yes, but there are some parts which I cannot read, but I'll find a way.
Okay, don't worry.
Yeah, yes. Just hold a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
So maybe
coming. Yes, I will be with you just now.
Don't worry, Takalani.
Okay.
So meanwhile, I can read diversity is a Latin term, diversus, which means more than one of a different kind. Ethnicity, race, religion, socioeconomic, viewpoints, gender, geographic origin, aptitude, appearance, and sexual orientation apply to diversity. As we have stated above, South Africa has diverse cultures. In this regard, diversity is defined as race, ethnicity, culture, language, socioeconomic status, class, and religion. Terry and Irving, as quoted by Mashaw and everyone else here, define diversity as a fundamental aspect of the world and a defining characteristic of the field of special education. For cultural and linguistically diverse CLD students, issues of diversity, difference, and disability can be quite complex and challenging for lecturers. That's true.
Yes, thank you very much, Jaime.
Okay, now you can read?
Yes, I can read now.
Great. Continue, please.
Thank you so much. Let me go on. Next slide is on culture. Culture is the response of a group of human beings to the valid and particular needs of its members. Culture is a misunderstood concept as it is a highly complex human phenomenon in many respects. Material goods and artifacts or visual aspects such as food and dress are associated with culture. It is also defined in terms of a particular group's art, music, and literature, and it is a distinctive way of life. Hopes and Push, Ramsey and Williams, Naidu and Lemmer and Squelch, as quoted by Mayer, agree that culture includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and other capabilities acquired by men as a member of society. National origin, gender, religion, occupation, geographical region, sexual orientation, generation, abilities or disabilities, leisure, activities, values, beliefs, aesthetic standards, linguistic expression, and patterns of thinking, behavioral norms, food, dress, rituals, song, dance, games, and styles of communication with which that particular group of people has developed along. There is evidence that culture has many faces. Some of the faces are highly visible, which is explicit, and others are hidden from view, implicit. Visible culture is easily identifiable in things such as food, dress, and language. Hidden elements are things like attitude, values, and beliefs. Right. I have looked at culture through UNESCO, which has Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity. Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity was adopted by the 31st session of the General Conference in Paris on the 2nd November 2001. The following articles serve as a way in which cultural diversity in different member states, including South Africa, are managed. Article 1 talks about cultural diversity, the common heritage of humanity. Culture takes diverse forms across time and space. This diversity is embodied in the uniqueness and plurality of the identities of the groups and societies making up humankind. As a source of exchange, innovation, and creativity, cultural diversity is as necessary for humankind as biodiversity is for of nature. In this sense, it is the common heritage of humanity and should be recognized and affirmed for the benefit of present and future generations. Article 3 talks about cultural diversity as a factor in the development. Cultural diversity widens the range of options open to everyone in a country. Cultural diversity is the base of development, understood as not simply in terms of economic growth, but also as a means to acquire a more satisfactory intellectual, emotional, moral, and spiritual existence. Article 4 talks about human rights as guarantees of cultural diversity. The defense of cultural diversity is an ethical imperative inseparable from respect for human dignity. It implies a commitment to human rights and fundamental freedoms, in particular the rights of persons belonging to minorities and those of indigenous people. No one may invoke cultural diversity to infringe upon human rights guaranteed by international law, nor to limit their scope. Article 5 talks about cultural rights as an enabling environment for cultural diversity. Cultural rights are an integral part of human rights, which are universal, indivisible, and interdependent. The flourishing of creative diversity requires the full implementation of cultural rights as defined in Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and in Articles 13 and 15 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. All persons have therefore the right to express themselves and to create and disseminate their work in the language of their choice, and particularly in their mother tongue. All persons are entitled to quality education and training that fully respect their cultural identity, and all persons have the right to participate in the cultural life of their choice and conduct their own cultural practices, subject to respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Article 7 talks about cultural heritage as the wellspring of creativity. Creation draws on the roots of cultural tradition, but flourishes in contact with other cultures. For this reason, heritage in all its forms must be preserved, enhanced, and handed on to future generations as a record for human experience and aspirations, so as to foster creativity in all its diversity and to inspire genuine dialogue among cultures. Article 9, cultural policies as catalyst of creativity. While ensuring the free circulation of ideas and works, cultural policies must create conditions conducive to the production and dissemination of diversified cultural goods and services through cultural industries that have the means to assert themselves at the local and global levels. It is for each state, with due regard to its international obligations, to define its cultural policy and to implement it through the means it considers fit, whether by operational support or appropriate regulations. So, coming down to Africa as a continent, the African culture and cultural diversity. According to Adams, Africa has a population of over 1.2 billion in about 58 states, and she has between 1,200 and 3,000 ethno-linguistic groups. Africa is one of the most culturally diverse regions of the world. In order for all Africans' ethno-linguistic groups, African Union introduced African Union Cultural Charter with the parts and articles discussed below. Part 2 talks about cultural diversity, identity, and African Renaissance. Article 3 of Part 2 reads, African states recognize that cultural diversity is a factor in the mutual enrichment of peoples and nations. Consequently, they undertake to defend minorities, their cultures, their rights, and their fundamental freedoms. Cultural diversity contributes to the expression of national and regional identities, and more widely to building Pan-Africanism. Article 4, at the national level, the promotion of identities consists of fostering mutual understanding and coordinating intercultural and intergenerational dialogue. At the global level, the promotion of African identities will exemplify African dignity and freedoms. It will present African values and the contribution of Africa and its diasporas to the building of universal civilization. Article 5, African states commit themselves to work for the African Renaissance. They agree on the need for reconstruction of the memory and historical conscience of Africa and its diasporas. They consider that the general history published by UNESCO constitutes a valid base for teaching the history of Africa and recommend its dissemination, including in African languages. Part 3 on cultural development. Article 6, the experience of previous decades recommends that an in-depth renewal of national and regional approaches in terms of cultural policy be carried out as the production of people's grassroots communities, artists, and intellectuals. Culture is a factor of social progress and a driving force for innovation. Article 7 states have this essential mission of establishing an enabling environment for cultural creation and development. To this end, they will guarantee freedom of expression for all citizens and cultural stakeholders. Now, coming to South Africa, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, its preamble says, we believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. The following sections of the Constitution support cultural rights and the education of the citizens of South Africa. Section 9, 1 to 3, or subsection 1 to subsection 3, on equality. Everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law. Equality includes the full and equal enjoyment of all rights and freedoms. To promote the achievement of equality, legislative and other measures designed to protect or advance persons or categories of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination may be taken. Section 29, subsection 1, subsection A to B, and to subsection 2, subsection A to C on education. Everyone has the right to basic education, including adult basic education. To further education, which the state, through reasonable measures, must make progressively available and accessible. Everyone has the right to receive education in the official language or languages of their choice in public educational institutions where that education is reasonably practicable. In order to ensure the effective access to and implementation of this right, the state must consider all reasonable educational alternatives, including single medium institutions, taking into account equity, practicability, and the need to redress the results of past racial discriminatory laws and practices. Section 30 on language and culture states that everyone has the right to use the language and to participate in the cultural life of their choice. But no one exercising these rights may do so in a manner inconsistent with any provision of the Bill of Rights.
Dear Takalani, a question, please, sorry.
Yes. No problem.
Thank you. You're reading these all rights that you are supposed to have. I have a question, and I don't know if somebody else has a question too. Do you have problems with respecting these rights in your country? The government, the schools, how you would say they respect these rights?
Yes, I can say they respect these rights because they are there in the Bill of Rights. So each and every individual has to respect all these rights, respect the individual right. But sometimes people go beyond and disrespect these laws or these rights. And then Section 36 talks about what can happen if somebody disrespect these rights or disrespect a human being. So there are consequences of not respecting these rights.
In your university, Takalani, do you have students from other countries or continents?
Yes, we have students from Africa, and also some lecturers are coming from, one of our lecturers is coming from Europe. So we have this diversity.
Okay. Anybody else has a question for Irma?
Yeah, I do. Please, Takalani, in the previous slide, you indicated everybody has the right for basic education.
Yes.
And then in the second, it says to further education. What does that mean? That means high school or university? I didn't want to assume, so that's why I'm asking.
Thank you very much for the question. Basic education is from grade 1 to grade 12. That is primary and secondary.
Okay.
And
Okay.
further education is university and technical vocational education training.
Okay. All right.
These are
Okay.
higher institutions of learning.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Nobody else has a question? Okay. Go on, Takalani, back to you.
Thank you very much, Shane. Section 31 talks of cultural religious and linguistic communities. Persons belonging to a cultural, religious, or linguistic community may not be denied the right with other members of that community. The right to enjoy their culture, practice their religion, and use their language. To form, join, and maintain cultural, religious, and linguistic associations and other organs of civil society. Now, looking at the importance of multicultural education in education, international bodies such as UNESCO on Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity and African Union on Cultural Charter acknowledge that, there is diversity in culture all over the world, and South Africa is no exception. Most countries all over the world have diverse cultures. There should be a way in which all cultures in a country are recognized and treated equally. In South Africa, the sections that have been discussed above from the Constitution are to recognize and embrace different cultures found in the country equally. Education has to be offered equally to all people from diverse cultures. In order for South Africa to offer equal equity and quality education for all, the multicultural aspect needs to be taken into consideration. Students should recognize and appreciate their culture. In so doing, they will also appreciate others' cultures in class. This recognition of individual cultural identities is the beginning point. It is a connector of both the lecturer to the student and the student to each other. This kind of recognition becomes the basic building block in the learning process, which requires knowing where the student is relative to him or herself and the content to be addressed. This cultural identity is a constant point of focus through the education process and is the basis for developing the next level of identification, which is a national identification. If students recognize their different cultural backgrounds, it becomes easier for them to understand that they belong to a multicultural society. Goals of multicultural education. According to David Mann, Banks, Golnick, and Chin, Banks and Mashaum, China, and Baposa. Here are the goals. Number one is to help individuals gain greater self-understanding by viewing themselves from the perspective of other cultures. Number two, respect. Number three, to provide students with cultural and ethnic alternatives. 4, to provide all students with skills, attitudes, and knowledge needed to function within their ethnic culture, the mainstream culture, and within and across other ethnic cultures. 5, to reduce the pain and discrimination that members of some ethnic and racial groups experience because of their unique racial, fiscal, and cultural characteristics. 6, to help students affirm cultural differences while realizing that individuals across cultures have many similarities. 7, to uncover the epistemological assumptions of mainstream academic knowledge and to make them public. 8, to construct paradigms that enhance the academic and social achievement of students from diverse cultural, ethnic, low income, and language minority groups. 9, to help individuals gain greater self-understanding by viewing themselves from the perspective of their cultures. 10, to empower empowerment of students and their parents and caretakers. 11, the development of a society that values cultural pluralism. 11, intercultural, interethnic, intergroup understanding in the classroom, university, and community, freedom for individuals and groups. 12, an expanded knowledge of various cultural and ethnic groups, and the development of students, parents, and practitioners whose thoughts and actions are guided by the informed and inquisitive multicultural perspective. I consider these goals as the core of multicultural education. I believe that they can function as facilitators of students' development of cultural humility, appreciation of fellow students' cultures, and guiding them to embrace their unity in diversity. These goals enhance multicultural and intercultural competencies, contribute to achieving social cohesion in the students' communities, and counteracts prejudice, including bias on the basis of race, culture, nationality, and socioeconomic status. In conclusion, lecturers are given the responsibilities of classroom teaching and management. They need the knowledge and skills that will enable them towards teaching effectively in a class with students from diverse cultures. I would like to suggest that pre-service teacher training should include multicultural education as a module or course. This module, among all the modules that are offered, will assist student teachers to understand how to handle and teach students from diverse cultural backgrounds. Those who are already in the field should get crash courses during continuous professional teacher development programs. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, in its preamble, says that the people of South Africa believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in their diversity. All lecturers and anybody who is involved in education should regard this statement as a unifier. Lecturers should consider their colleagues and all students as equals, united in their diversity. Students have individual differences, even though they may appear to be from the same cultural group. These differences extend far beyond intellectual and physical abilities. Within this dichotomy of differences, students also bring to class different historical backgrounds, religious beliefs, and the day-to-day living patterns. These experiences guide the way students behave within the university culture. Lecturers should understand this and have the ability to handle students in their classroom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Could you stop sharing your screen, my dear Takalani?
All right.
And I'm sure we got lots of questions about education and diversity in South Africa, everyone in the audience here.
I'm trying to unshare the screen. Where do I go?
You go to share the screen and then stop. And then it says stops.
Okay, okay.
Okay, don't worry. It always happens to the best guest speakers in the world. First,
okay.
close it. First, close your PPT. Go to the X, up.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. When this happens to me, Takalani, I always think about this quote. It always happens to the best speakers in the world. So thank you so much for such a very detailed explanation of rights about diversity and education in your country. I have many questions, and I'm sure that everyone here too. I want to know, in South Africa, in your country, education is free. The government pays for it. Education is better in the public schools or in private schools. For example, your university is private or public?
Yes, yeah, we have public universities, 26 public universities and several private universities. Education is free from primary to secondary, to secondary, grade 1 to grade 12. And it also, is, at university, yes, it's all, at university is also free since 2018.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Does the government give students some support? I mean, food, notebooks, books, or?
Yes, the students are given everything, tuition fee, lodging, food, transport, they get that free.
And what about English, my dear Takalani? English is compulsory, or it's you can choose it, or other languages? Because you said that you got like 12,
11.
11 languages in your country.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes.
What
No,
about English?
English is the language used to teach.
Yeah.
So we use English. That is why we, with these diverse students, I mean, the students who come from diverse backgrounds, then they had to be taught in English. They learn in English. So
when do students start studying English? For example, here in Peru, public schools, students start to study English right in high school, not in primary school, but but in private schools they study since they are very little in kindergarten.
In English and education language policy in South Africa, home language, which is mother tongue, is taught from grade 1 to grade 3. And then from grade 3, the students or learners start to learn in English.
Okay.
So they learn in English from grade 4 up to they complete the high school and coming to university as a second language.
Okay, I have more questions, but I would like people here in the audience to ask you more questions about diversity, culture, education in South Africa. So anybody who wants to ask our friend Takalani? Irma in Ecuador?
Yeah, I'm always making questions, but
Come on.
Takalani, thank you for sharing all that information that for me is an eye-opener information, and you know, all the characteristics that you have been defining, all the different articles with the specific instructions to clarifying ideas and concepts. So my question to you is the following. Everything on paper seems almost perfect.
Yes.
Because everything has been considered. And coming from the reality that having 11 different mother tongues or languages, how much, and these questions, I'm doing it with all the respect, how much of everything that is in the paper becomes a real thing in the diversity that you have in your country and in the classes?
This one, when it comes to reality, it's very difficult because there are these marginalized languages, especially Black languages. They're marginalized, but they are there in the Constitution as official languages. But coming to practice, it's very difficult. So that is why now the Department of Higher Education and Training is enforcing all universities to have language policy, because the department has its own framework policy, which universities should infuse the framework, the national framework, into their own language, I mean, into the university. For instance, we are busy in our province. We are in the northern part of South Africa, and the province is called Limpopo. So we have 5.
Okay.
Yes, we have 5 official languages.
Wow.
That is our language, which is Venda. There is Tsonga, there is Pedi, there is Ndebele, Afrikaans, and English. Oh, there are 6. So when we enact policy, we have to look at these languages. How do we infuse them in our university? But because of this diverse, because you cannot teach, if I'm teaching on my home language, then I'm disadvantaging other ethnic groups, which is in class. So then I go to English. That is why it is difficult to say that these marginalized languages are being spoken. But now, in all universities, English is the language that is used. It's a medium of instruction. So in practice, it's very difficult, but
Yeah.
in paper, it's there.
Yeah, right. Well, it's the first step. And you have been able in your country to take the first steps in organizing everything and trying to create in words on paper a reality that everybody is looking for. I mean, diversity, if you work with that, you are developing, you are teaching, you're exercising tolerance. And
That's
through
true.
tolerance, hopefully, we can learn to work and live in peace, in spite of our differences. And that's what we all want. I mean, live in peace. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. How about teacher training then? Because if English is going to be, and I'm looking this maybe in a very romantic way, English is going to be the tool, the best instrument to, the best alliance to make it real. What about teacher training then?
Teacher training takes place at university since 2010. So we used to have teacher training colleges, okay, which used to train in English. And all universities which are training teachers, they use English as a medium of instruction.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I'm still trying to digest all the information that you show on the screens, but hey, congratulations, because you're in the path.
We will go to South Africa, Irma, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We will be very happy to receive you here.
I'll be there in your university someday. I promise. It's in my bucket list.
Okay.
Yes. It will be lovely, a lovely experience. Thank you, Takalani.
And I'll try to learn at least 2 or 3 of your mother tongue languages.
Will you?
That's a challenge.
That's why I want to go. Anybody else, please, who has a question for our guest speaker today? Takalani? Anyone else? Raj? Takalani, Raj is the president of our online English association.
Okay, no.
Thank you.
And Irma is the treasurer.
Well, it's an honorary presidency. There's no such president. Takalani,
yes, honorary.
Yeah, I admire what is being done, and also at the same time curious about the Bantu self-government. What does that mean? That was part of your document, because that's the African people, right?
Yes, you say from 1948, when the national, in fact, there were some parties, these African white parties, which were ruling South Africa. And then there was this party of the Afrikaners, those who speak Afrikaans. You remember I talked about 2 ethnic white groups, the English and the Afrikaans. So once the Africans won elections in 1948 to become government, they started to divide the blacks according to their languages, ethnic groups. So they created or enacted the Bantu Promotion Government Act in 1959 and split these blacks into the homelands. So they created homelands. There were about 9. And then within these homelands, they then created the so-called republics. A republic of, which they used to call it TBVC, Republic of Transkei, where they are closest, a Republic of Tswana, where Tswana speaking are, a Republic of Venda, where we are, and also Republic of Ciskei, where they are closest. So there were 4 republics which were also homelands, but with independent, I don't know how independent they were. So this is how it was. And then during negotiations, the parties agreed, which were in negotiating towards liberation of South Africa, towards 27th April elections of 1994. So they agreed that no, let's amalgamate all we put together some of the homeless the way they are situated. Let's say, for example, like I said, we are in Limpopo. Limpopo has got 4 homelands. That is where we are in Venda, Gazankulu, Libua, and Kwandebele. So one province received 4 homelands. Other provinces 1 or 2, but now it's a unified state. But like I said, these homelands, I mean, the people who were there are still there. They are still predominantly where they were before 1994 and even now. So this was the situation before. And now, if you remember the map that I showed, it has these sporadic parts of these homelands. And there is part which doesn't have homeland. That is where whites were. So, and some blacks who were working in the industries and farms were also there. So this was the situation of the homelands.
And just one other question, which is following what Irma was asking. What do the students experience? Do they experience integration?
We try by all means at universities to integrate them and to understand that they are one, they are South Africans. They should not call themselves by ethnic part where I come from, this is who I am. But when they come to university, they are South Africans. And this is the way we are trying to integrate them into the system, so that always they must think that they are South Africans more than their ethnic group or ethnic, whatever they can call.
Thank you.
Before somebody else asks a question, Takalani, I've been thinking about the number of languages that you speak in South Africa. How many do you speak? How many are you fluent in?
As an individual?
Yes.
Myself. I'm fluent in my home language, Venda. The chambers of the Gamat.
Could you introduce yourself? Please me. Please introduce yourself using your mother tongue language.
I am Takalani Masha. Me.
Say that again.
Ne.
Oh my God, it's nasal, right?
No. It is not.
And now I feel like my students feel when they are in their English basic classes.
Hey.
Very difficult. Thank you, dear. Okay, anybody else has a question for Takalani? Please. Milagros, Jimmy, Obdeli, names that I can't pronounce. Tommy, Irene, Marco, somebody else? No?
I have a question.
Please, Marco, in Mexico.
You mentioned that children start learning English in grade 3, I think, right? How does the educational system do that? I mean, do they start learning English in a system of bilingual education, or do they start directly entering classes in English?
No, they started, you see, there is this home language, which is mother tongue. It's called home language. And then second additional language, first additional language, which is English. So it is introduced as a second language to the learners. So it's not introduced drastically, it is gradually introduced until they can cope with the language. But the emphasis is to master the mother tongue and then they go to second language.
Does that mean?
Sorry, Marco, go on.
Does that mean that they start at that time? Teachers have to teach something like bilingual classes, classes in 2 languages.
Yes, there is transition of languages for the learners to understand what they mean about this word, a particular word. So transition is allowed.
Okay.
It is allowed. Yes.
Okay, but what I understand from your information is also that they speak several languages, and so according to the title of your presentation, I understand that you have students from different cultures in one single group, right? I mean that's a multilinguistic classes. That's multilinguistic classes, something like that.
Okay.
So how do they do that? Does the teacher speak several languages and speak in several languages during the class?
No, in public schools, like I said, most of the homeless, I mean, are still existing. The people who resided there before 1994 are still predominantly there. Then you will find that an area is composed of certain cultural or language group. So there's no need of multiplicity of teaching or multiplicity of language teaching. So it's the one language, the home language, and then additional language. So you find that maybe in private schools or in towns where there are different cultures, that is where they introduce this different type of introduction of languages. But in most rural areas, it's only that particular language that is being taught as mother tongue and then transition to English.
Okay, so according to the map that you showed at the beginning, you mean that those areas or provinces, probably provinces, are probably monolingual in their own language, or probably they are bilingual, multilingual, but they have one language established as the language of communication.
Yes, they're still like that at the moment, with very few people who have moved out of that, and then when maybe they come to town, that is where there is this multilingual talk. But mostly in those areas, people are still there as they were before 1994.
Okay, I'm trying to understand a little bit the situation there, right? So that means that the population in different places is not a multilingual population necessarily.
No, it's not. It's not. It's
Okay.
not, except in towns and cities where people come together for work and other related issues.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, dear Marco. Before Jimmy Ronald speaks, let me ask you, do you know how much money does the government in your country invest in education? Because, for example, here in Peru, if I'm not mistaken, it's only 4 or 5% of the total of the budget of the government. But I know that in other countries like Chile is like 11 or Argentina. What about your country? Do you know?
I am not sure about the percentage of the money that is given to the department by the treasury. I will find out the percentage of how much percentage is given to education.
I'm sure that you know the president of South Africa. You are good friends. I'm sure about that. By the way, what kind of government do you have? Is it democratic government you elect?
It is democratic government where we go for elections after 5 years.
Okay, just
We
like
go
here in
for
Peru.
provincial and national elections, and
Yeah.
then we have local government.
You should run for president, my dear Takalani.
No, not now.
Thank you. Jimmy Ronald Riojas from Peru, right? Jimmy, you're from Peru, right?
Yes, sure. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jaime.
No, thank
Good
you,
morning,
dear.
everyone. Good morning, Takaline. Thank you so much for your sharing your information. I have two questions, Takaline. I don't know if you can hear me. Yes?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Perfect. So I have two questions. The first question is, how about the students after this pandemic? The 100% of the students back to the face-to-face classes, or maybe there are some blended or maybe mixed classes, I don't know, in your country. The other question is about the resources or material that the teacher have to use technology. You have all the resources in your classroom, or maybe the teacher, students, they have maybe cell phone, laptops, internet, all the resources to online classes, or maybe using technology.
Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, Takalani, two questions. You remember them?
Yes. Yeah. The first question is on the use of e-learning. Yes, during pandemic, we were forced to, because we are contact university, we were forced now to go to e-learning. We have a learning management system, which is known as Moodle. This is the system that we use with our students. So it depends on the lecturers. Some used Moodle, some used WhatsApp, Facebook to teach their students. And what became a little bit difficult was on assessments, how to monitor students while they're writing their assignments and examination. But all in all, we went for e-learning. But due to the regulations, depending on the level of lockdowns in South Africa, sometimes we received students at university, but we also used that blended learning. So on the second question, yes, it's not easy. It's not everybody who, especially the students, it's not all of them who have laptops, but the university tried to give tablets to students so that they can be involved in education throughout. So when we become lecturers, university give us laptops to work on with them.
For free?
Yes, for free. So that is the advantage here. We receive them for free and use them, and we, after 5 years, we can change them and we get them some for free.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Okay, Jaime. So here I want to say something about Takalani. Okay, Takalani. So, for example, here in Peru, for higher education, in students from university, they are studying only online, like here in State University here. They only study. But in regular, secondary, primary, or kindergarten, maybe they back to the school, but the university, not yet. So you have you have given laptops here in your country, but here in Peru, the students and teachers only will have to receive only chips for internet. Yes, a chip from Movistar, very slow. No, it was not. But wait, that is a reality compared with your country and here our country in Peru. Thank you, Jaime. Thank you,
no, thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy, you work in a public university? Public school?
Yeah, public university and public school. I work here in Lima, but the students, they don't have back to the university, university also, not yet. And private university, not yet, here in Lima, Callao.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy, for the info. Well, my dear Takalani, it's time for us, I guess, to say goodbye, and thank you so much for this great presentation and learning a lot from your wonderful, amazing country. As I told you at the beginning in the interview, I love the music. I love the happiness of your people. I love the diversity you have. I love people like you because you are a wonderful human being. Since the very first moment we met, remember, like 10 years ago, over there in that little city of New York, and we became friends. Thank you so much, Takalani. So I don't know if somebody wants to express his or her gratitude to our guest speaker today, so you are free to say it.
Takalani, thank you so much for helping us, for me to widen my scope of understanding of what it is like to live in so many different cultures, languages, and create a sense of belonging. Because I think that's what's most important is, do I feel a sense of belonging in different cultures? And the languages really matter. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you,
so
dear Raj. Anyone else, please?
Thank you,
Yes.
Takalani. Thank you for your presentation, for sharing that wide aspects of education and cultural in your country. That really, like I said before, it was an eye-opener PowerPoint presentation, and still makes me wonder how we could work out with our own students in here and trying to develop the diversity and the tolerance that you show it in yours on the screen. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Takalani, thank you so much especially for your time, because here is Sunday. I know that you have to share with your family, for all your presentation, for your research, your time. Well, thank you so much for all. Hopefully, maybe someday we'll have to see you face to face here in Peru or maybe in Africa. All right. Thank you.
For sure. I will start saving some dollars to travel to your country because I don't need to pay for a hotel. I will be right in your house.
That is true. My house is your house.
I know. Mi casa es tu casa. Before you say your final words in this presentation today, my dear Takalani, let me remind everyone that we will have on May the 15th, this roundtable talking about teaching English and problems of teaching and learning in kindergarten. Okay, so dear Takalani, thank you so much.
Marco wanted to say something.
Sorry. Thank you so much, my dear President. Marco in Mexico.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you because it is necessary to learn about other countries, especially countries which are far away from America, right? We can read about this in research articles about these countries, but and about the culture and linguistic situation, but receiving the information directly from the person is usually much better and helps to understand more. Thank you.
Yes, Marco. And if we want to understand it much better, we will go to South Africa.
Right. Of course.
So dear Takalani, you got some time to say goodbye and say whatever you want to say to us.
Okay, thank you very much, Jaime, for organizing this meeting. I really appreciate to be invited to give our thoughts as university and South Africa. And I really enjoyed to be with you, even though we are not live. It's like we're together live. And also colleagues from the Faculty of Humanities, Social Sciences who managed to join, because I invited them to join this conversation. I really appreciate it, your presence from all over South America and also Canada. I don't have words more than to say thank you so much.
I'll send you a dictionary so you can have some more words to say.
Okay.
Well, by the way, that you mentioned that some of your colleagues are present. So if one of them wants to present in one of our conferences, in our meetings, he or she is welcome. Okay, dear Takalani?
No, thank you very much. I will convey the message to all of them, to the,
Okay.
the whole faculty, yes.
By the way, many people were listening to you and watching you in Facebook Live, people from different countries, and you got a lot of thumbs up and a lot of hearts and a lot of blessings for your presentation, dear Takalani.
Thank you so much.
I will share with you later the recording of your presentation, so you can show it to your children and your grandchildren and the grandchildren of your grandchildren. Goodbye, Raj, Marcos,
Thank you so much.
Tommy, Jimmy,
Have a
Irma,
lovely,
and
lovely
Ian,
afternoon.
and all your friends from beautiful Africa. Goodbye, Tommy. Nice meeting you. Goodbye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Please stay
Goodbye.
safe.
See you soon. See you soon in South Africa.
See you.